Many scary things still exist in this world. Care to know about them? We will be showing the top 10 scary existing objects in this video. Number 10. The Crying Boy Paintings. The Crying Boy painting was produced by an artist named Giovanni Bragolin in the 1950s and quickly became famous, or rather infamous. Nonetheless, it saw mass production and wide distribution, copies upon copies, and hung in many homes across Britain. Well, it wasn't that surprising, as the painting had a certain type of thing that attracts customers and still does. But certainly, in 1985, the paintings became related to something really mysterious. The haunted legend of the Crying Boy painting seems to have begun with the sun. This always reliable British newspaper in 1985 reported that many of the homes with this painting mysteriously caught fire, with many of them burning to the ground. But the thing that makes this whole thing more mysterious at the same time terrifying is the painting of the Crying Boy was discovered absolutely untouched by the raging flames. Coincidence, you say? Well, the firefighters from the 50s don't think that. Apparently, British firefighters were already so freaked out by this phenomenon, none of them would allow copies of the painting into their own homes. A story also popped up that the painting was of an orphan whose home had burned down. Want that painting in your homes? A statue from before Christ era that is related with many deaths, or a haunted doll that has its own blockbuster horror movies. Want to know about them? Stick until the end. Number 9. The Cursed Bassano Vase. Say you're digging around your yard and discover a 15th century silver Italian vase. If you are a fan of antique things, then you would see it as a nice addition to your collection. But inside, if you find a note saying, "Beware, this vase brings death," then what would you do? Well, this person in 1988 who found something like that and decided it would be a really good idea to auction it off. So, if you're also thinking that the note could have been some kind of joke, then let me give a brief history of it. It was a carved silver vase that dates back to the 15th century, and it is said that it was carved by an Italian maiden on her wedding night. Sadly, she never made it to the altar, as she was murdered that night with the vase in her hands. After that, the vase was passed down her family line, but anyone who took possession of it is said to have perished soon thereafter. In 1988, too, the new owner of it died after 3 months of buying it. The next owner similarly passed away, this time after 2 months. The pattern continued, owner to owner, until eventually the police decided enough was enough and buried it somewhere. I wouldn't suggest looking for this creepy vase. Number 8. The Hands Resist Him painting. Painted by artist Bill Stoneham in 1972, The Hands Resist Him is considered one of the world's most haunting pieces of art. According to the artist, the doorway represents a threshold between this world and the world of fantasy and impossibilities, while the doll is a guide that will escort the boy through it. So, all the things started with a strange connection. It was a part of a large gallery show in 1974 and was sold there. And then the strange thing happened. Between 1978 and 1984, 3 of the men closest to the painting died. The man who sold the painting, the owner of the painting, and the art critic who reviewed the painting. Well, it doesn't end here. Each owner has passed on a warning to the next potential buyer of this painting to expect some kind of horrifying things. Many of the people who possessed the painting witnessed the characters in the painting move at night, and sometimes even leave the painting and appear in the room in which it was displayed. No, not in my living room. Number 7. Robert the Evil Doll. The life-sized straw doll had been a birthday present for Robert Eugene Otto, or Gene, as his family called, and the young boy loved it. It was given to him by his grandfather, and the sailor-suited doll became his favorite toy, as he gave it the name of Robert. But with its appearance in Gene's life, things became a bit strange. Many times his parents and servants heard Gene talking with Robert. Well, kids do that, don't they? But the creepier fact is that they would also hear an unknown person with a deep-sounding voice replying to him. Many times, the room was found vandalized, furniture in his room getting overturned on its own, and Gene would utter the phrase, "Robert did it." Gene began having horrible nightmares, which made him wake up screaming. Even after Robert was banished to the attic, passers-by claimed to see a small figure moving from window to window. Many believed the doll to be cursed or simply evil. These days, Robert is kept under lock and key at Key West's Fort East Martello Museum. If you visit him, which I don't suggest, ask his permission before snapping a selfie, because he doesn't take kindly to unsolicited photographs. Number 6. The Anguished Man Painting. Well, here comes another haunted painting. Fascinated by its charm and somehow mysteriously drawn towards it, Sean Robinson used to spend hours staring at the Anguished Man painting as a child. It was in his basement where it had been hidden by his grandmother. Sean's grandmother used to say it was evil. After she died, Sean inherited the painting from her. He decided to hang the painting on the wall despite several arguments about it with his wife, and I don't blame her. After that, the house that Sean lived in started experiencing bizarre paranormal events. Doors cracking in the middle of the night, followed by blood-curdling screams that seemed to be coming from nowhere. But the most horrifying experience of all was the nightmares that every member of the family had every night, waking them up. Upon investigating, they found something very disturbing. The artist who painted the Anguished Man committed suicide, but before he took his life, he mixed his own blood with the oil paint that he used for the painting. That's creepy. Upon learning this, Sean took the painting down and locked it away in a secure place. Number 5. The Cursed Tomb of King Tutankhamun. The tomb of Tutankhamun, a 19-year-old Egyptian pharaoh, is probably one of the most famous curses of all time. King Tut's tomb was discovered by Howard Carter in 1922. It is said that anyone who dares to enter the tomb is struck with bad luck, illness, or death because of something called the Curse of the Pharaohs. Howard Carter's expedition team most likely was also struck by the curse, and almost everyone who was involved with the expedition died under mysterious circumstances. The first person to fall prey to the curse was Lord Carnarvon, the financial backer of the excavation team. He died within 4 months of being at the tomb due to a mosquito bite that became infected. Other deaths that followed were that of the radiologist who x-rayed Tutankhamun's mummy and 10 other people who either committed suicide or were shot or poisoned within months of visiting the tomb. You can't logically sum the deaths, and it is the thing that makes this very horrifying. Number 4. The Chair of Death. Do you have a favorite chair in your home? But what is the extent of your love for that chair? Will you consider cursing it after you die so no one else can sit on it without dying? Well, that is exactly what Thomas Busby did in 1702. Busby came home one day and saw his father-in-law, Daniel Audi, sitting in his favorite chair, which he didn't like, and got into an argument with Audi and threw him out of the house. That didn't satisfy Busby, so he went up to Audi's home and killed him with a hammer. And all of that for sitting on a chair. Busby was found out, convicted, and was subsequently hanged. His final request was to have a meal at his favorite local pub. However, upon finishing his meal, he stood and proclaimed, "May sudden death come to anyone who dares sit on my chair." Supposedly, 63 people who have sat on the chair met untimely deaths, sometimes after mere hours. In 1972, the Thirsk Museum actually had to place it on the ceiling to prevent people from committing suicide by the chair. Care to have a seat? Number 3. The Dybbuk Box. The item is known as the Dybbuk Box, and it made its first appearance on the internet in 2003 when it was put up for auction on eBay. Though it doesn't sound like that actually, the Dybbuk Box is actually a shrine cabinet and belonged to a Jewish woman who had lived to the ripe old age of 103. She was a Holocaust survivor and is believed to be possessed by a Dybbuk, a restless, usually malicious spirit in Jewish mythology believed to be able to haunt and possess the living. And she also has strictly said that the box should never, ever be opened. But its first owner, who bought it in 2001, opened it, and as you might have guessed, things didn't go so well after that. He started having terrible nightmares, as did his friends who stayed with him. He gave the box to his mother, who suffered a stroke on the same day. The last owner was Jason Haxton, director of the Museum of Osteopathic Medicine, who not only had nightmares, but developed a strange skin disease and began coughing up blood. Haxton later gave the cabinet to Ghost Adventures star Zach Bagans to display in his museum. Now, I have to think twice before opening my wine cellar. Number 2. The Woman from Lem Statue. The first thing that can pop up in your mind when you first look at this statue: what am I looking at exactly? This statue, known as the Woman from Lem, is a depiction of a fertility goddess. Originally made around 3500 BCE in Cyprus and then found in 1878 in Eastern Europe. But because of its association with so many people's death, it's often referred to as the Goddess of Death. Supposedly, the first owner was a Lord Elfont, whose 7-member family all died within 6 years of Elfont receiving the statue. Then Ivor Manucci acquired it, who died along with his entire family within the next 4 years, as did the family of Lord Thompson Noel, owner number 3. Sir Alan Biverbrook and his wife and 2 daughters died as they bought it next, but before it could finish off the family entirely, the 2 remaining sons donated the statue to the National Museum of Scotland in Edinburgh. The museum curator who took care of the acquisition died within a year as well. Well, the Goddess of Death may actually be the right title for this statue. Number 1. The Annabelle Doll. This list would be incomplete without the mention of the name Annabelle. Yes, this doll, which had quite a big screen appearance with having her very own movie, is actually based on true stories. Many of you know about it from the movies. Purchased from a hobby store in 1970, the doll that would later become known as Annabelle spent a considerable amount of time terrorizing a pair of nursing students before paranormal experts Lorraine and Ed Warren were called in. Although initially, the spirit within the doll claimed to be that of a young girl, Annabelle Higgins, who had been found dead at the age of 7, eventually it became clear that this was not the case. The Warrens determined that Annabelle was actually a demon posing as the spirit of the little girl, and even worse, that she was intent on stealing one of the nursing students' souls. An exorcism seemed to have solved the problem, but the Warrens, who took Annabelle with them after the case, ended up building a locked case for the doll after she started getting up to her old tricks at her new home. She's on display at the Warrens Occult Museum if you want to visit. So that's it, guys. Here ends our list of the top 10 scary objects that still exist. If you enjoyed the video, then go on and smash that like button, and also subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Click the next video displayed to continue watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.